Hi, could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Duncan Cannon. I'm Director of External Relations at the University of York and Director of the York Festival of Ideas.
And as Director of the York Festival Ideas, what exactly have you been up to over the last few months?
Preparing for a festival that will be the largest one we've ever done. We've been running for 8 years and we're doing 208 events between tonight, the 5th of June, right up until the 17th of June, when we finish with a major collaboration bringing new generation thinkers and reimagining our city.
Excellent. So I know this evening we've actually had a really amazing event. Michael Morpurgo has been here reading and some amazing music. So what did you make of this evening's event?
Oh, it was extraordinary. I think if anything it was even more moving than the last time he came. The place was packed, you could hear a pin drop, the music was utterly mesmerising, and just the humanity of both the story and Michael and Victoria's reading of that story combined with this incredible music from the Storytellers Ensemble, I think had everybody just completely moved and wrapped. And it was the perfect opening because our theme this year is imagining the impossible, and I think the story of survivors of a concentration camp that is almost impossible for any of us living today to imagine is picked up as a theme in terms of ensuring that we don't forget such horrors happened, and that actually those kind of horrors still exist in other places in the world today. And that's a theme that will be picked up very much in a focus day we're running this Saturday, the 9th of June, on achieving peace in the Middle East, where we're bringing Syrian experts and Israeli experts and the former US ambassador to Israel, who has been one of the chief negotiators of peace in the Middle East, alongside a former security advisor to Barack Obama. So that's the level at which the festival is operating, that we can attract and bring those kinds of international speakers to York, which is in itself a human rights city, which is very, very important to us.
Definitely, and from my understanding, it's become a human rights city in the last year or so.
It's about 18 months now,
Yes.
and it's been very much driven as a collaboration. And the thing I love about being in York, and it's such a hallmark of the festival, is the spirit of collaboration, the huge respect for ideas, the idea that research and education is a fundamental human right, and that using that research to promote human rights, to promote the idea of prosperity for all, is a really important hallmark. And I think as a university, we have both a moral obligation but also a huge responsibility to ensure that ideas are for everybody, that no one is excluded from the world of ideas and education. And that very much is the focus on Friday of this week, where we have again a range of experts talking about the importance of universities, not as global elite isolated organisations, but as fundamental to their communities, not just from an economic point of view but also a social point of view, and exploring in the current context of tuition fees and value for money and marketisation, what is the future for universities, and how do we and can we support our local communities?
Definitely, and just speaking with regard to the future of the universities, I'm not sure whether you want to discuss the recent strike action.
Well, the strike action brought to light a number of issues that are endemic in the higher education sector since tuition fees came into fore. And, there are questions to be asked about the funding and the nature of the cost of education and who pays for it. And is it fair that only students should pay for it? That's a question that we will be asking. We will be looking at the relationship between universities as drivers of economic prosperity. We hear again and again about the university sector being integral to the success of the industrial strategy. If you believe that higher education is a public good, if you believe that graduates are driving forward economic prosperity, should graduates be the only ones to pay? And, I'm not going to express my personal opinion. The university is really about facilitating open debate and discussion, and I would encourage anyone who wants to think about the relationship between universities and economic prosperity and how universities are funded, and actually fundamental questions in the 21st century about who and what universities are for. Those are questions that we'd really like to have open debate and discussion about. We have everyone ranging from David Willits to Nicky Morgan to John Denham, so former and current education policy officials. We've got the Deputy President of the National Union of Students. We have rafts of education journalists coming. It's an open forum, and I'd really encourage people to come along to the Ron Cook Hub and join the debate, because education is fundamental to society. Education is what sticks societies together. You look at societies around the world where education is not seen as a human right, is not accessible, and those are generally the societies that have most conflict and most of the barriers to progress that we experience here in the UK, and are so lucky to be able to do so.
Excellent. I couldn't have said that better. Thank you ever so much. And I really hope that people do attend that event on Friday because it sounds so fascinating.
Thank you. And then as an extra treat, because I am a lifelong Leonard Cohen fan, we are so lucky on Friday night at the end of the Higher Education Focus Day to have John Zeppatelli, who's travelling all the way from Montreal. He's the director of the Montreal MAC, the Modern Art Contemporary Museum. They are curating and have just opened the first ever major exhibition of Leonard Cohen as an artist, as a poet, and of course as a fundamentally wonderful singer from my point of view. And I think that's going to be a really fascinating talk and event, and we're just so lucky that John has agreed to come over for that.
Definitely. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
So obviously tickets are available on yorkfestivalofideas.com. Lots of action on Twitter, and again we really want to encourage people to get involved in the conversation. This is a festival for everybody and we hope everybody will join in.
Thank you.